heat is here, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Absolutely. Well, at least overnight in the mornings, that's when we're pretty much going to have our only break from the heat. And speaking of tomorrow morning, we could see some patchy fog. I mentioned overnight showers and thunderstorms. Not everyone's going to see them, but those of us who do, you could be waking up to some foggy conditions. Other than that, we're going to have clear skies throughout much of the day, and that will last for the start of our week. Sweltering heat, pretty much just like what we've been seeing all weekend. Those actual temperatures going to be in those mid to upper 90s. Heat index could bring us into those lower 100s. So protect yourself from the heat and prepare for next showers pretty much on Wednesday.
I was going to say, hold on until then, and maybe we'll get some relief, at least the plants and the grass and all that. That'd be nice.
Yeah, thankfully that, but only slightly cooler though, still hot.
All right, thanks, Sinead. Thanks for watching WAAY 31 News at 10, and stay tuned. Law Call is next.
This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight we're talking all about injuries. So summertime, be thinking about the sort of accidents that happen. Call in your questions. You can call in anything from about filing a claim, dealing with insurance companies, or actually filing a lawsuit. You call in at 256-536-0077. You can also text your questions to that same number. So if you're a little shy, a little embarrassed about putting your voice on the air, or afraid that somebody's going to recognize your voice for the circumstances you're describing, text us 256-536-0077. You can also email your questions. You can email a legal question any day of the week. You send it to lawcall@waaytv.com. And when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some out. And tonight we'll have some of your questions, your email questions, all about injuries. We've got with us Will League from Timberlake League and Brooks. Good to have you here.
All right.
You guys do personal injury cases, so that's a wide variety of things. But in the summertime, does it kind of change a little bit of what's coming in?
You know, we see, right, as Sharon said, hey, text is great. We'd love to hear your voice. If you got a question, give us a call. Be brave. Let's see what you got. Summertime injuries, we see a lot of, a lot more DUI cases, which results in horrific injuries. People, defendants going to jail, being sued. So we, investigate and prosecute those type of cases on the civil side, not the criminal. A lot more people are stretching out and getting on their motorcycles, so we're seeing a lot more. Sadly, oftentimes, not sadly, it's a lot of times it's not the motorcycle rider's fault.
Yeah.
They're just difficult to see.
Yeah.
So we see a lot more of those because people are getting out on their boats, which is fine. Also, kids in the neighborhood getting out, riding bikes, going around, getting a little bit of trouble. But sometimes it turns bad when they're too far from home or something happens. We've seen a lot of bicycle wreck cases. They're sad, especially when you got the minors involved. We see the road bikes. People are training for their triathlons, marathons, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people are out and about doing things, which is good. But we also see cases surrounding the activities. When I've had some mountain biking, not mountain biking cases, caving or climbing cases, and some of those. Yeah. So, a lot of those cases you see a lot more in the summer, with kids going back to school, traveling back and forth, summer school, college kids. So you see a lot more motor vehicle wrecks just as people are out and about more.
If you've got worries about things, having other people's kids traveling with you, got questions, call in 536-0077 or text us. So we like to start off while we're getting your phone calls locked in with some video. You make the law call. We pull some video off of YouTube, and this is where, okay, you hear of a bus stop, but that's different. A bus running into the back of this car, and we're going to see it again. It doesn't seem like the car was slamming on the brakes, but
what color is that light up there? What is that? You see it over there?
Yeah, that's an unusual
Well, there's red right above the bus right this second.
Okay.
And out in front, it looks like it's yellow. So I'm kind of confused on the light scheme of what's going on. But clearly the other traffic stopped. Maybe we're talking about a different country.
Could be.
The other traffic stopped, bus didn't. Under Alabama law, the bus will be at fault. A lot of times they have sensors and things to keep that from happening. Apparently that technology is not available where this happened. But again, you have significant property damage. Folks in there are okay. You had a couple different claims. One to get your car fixed, two to get your medical bills paid for if you're injured, time off from work, what's called compensatory damages, which is lost wages, time off from work, medical bills to put you or compensate you for the injuries and damages you've sustained. Well, we were talking earlier, if there's any type of punitive damage, if you're drinking and driving, speeding at excessive rate, where that gives rise to what's called a wantonness claim. If you know there's a substantial likelihood of injury, but still participate in that type of conduct, then you could be subject to punitive damages to punish you for that type of conduct and preclude that type of conduct in the future.
Okay, we've got folks texting in questions already. Okay, if a dad let his minor son drive his truck and a major wreck happens, even with a death, is the dad responsible or is the minor son? So we don't know an exact age.
Right.
Hopefully we're driving age.
Right.
When do you get in trouble for letting somebody else drive your car?
What's called negligent entrustment. And usually the owner of the motor vehicle is not liable for anything that happens with regard to that vehicle if he allows someone to borrow that vehicle. Same scenario, if you let your 14-year-old son borrow your car, doesn't have a driver's license, causes a horrific wreck, you have allowed someone who does not have a license, does not have experience, so your negligent conduct in allowing your son to use your automobile, you're liable as well, just if you were driving, to the extent that your negligent conduct in letting someone, an inexperienced driver, use your vehicle, you could be liable as well. Now, your insurance may cover you for that as well, but again, we see a lot of that as well.
We've got callers waiting. We've got Carol on the line from Florence with a question about workers' comp, I think. Hi, Carol. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes. I have a friend who was injured on the job, and she actually works at a well-known grocery store.
Okay. Yep. Don't tell us the name.
No,
Good.
I
Okay.
won't.
Keep going.
But anyway, she was helping unload a truck, and the driver of the truck kind of pushed the contents, and she fell.
Okay.
And was taken. She went to the doctor. She does have injury to the tailbone, and Workman's Comp is paying her medical bills.
Okay.
But she's having to use some PTO.
Okay.
And Workman's Comp is not really paying her wages for her time off.
Okay. Will, you guys do workers' comp cases, right?
Right, we do. We do. And so, typical case, she's unloading at the grocery store. Where she works, she falls. That's an injury during line and scope for duties for her employer. And so you're entitled to workers' compensation benefits, which is a very poor body of law in Alabama, but you are entitled to three things. One, all your medical bills paid for life for that injury. Two, what you mentioned she's not getting is 2/3 of her average weekly wage if she is taken off work by a company-approved physician. And three, if there's an impairment rating, compensation for the impairment rating or loss of job access for that particular injury or that particular part of your body. It's a weird little formula, but there's a formula for each part of your body, how much you damage it, how much you injure it, what is your percentage impairment, and so that'll come back. That'll come back. So she's entitled to those three things. Now, one thing that we didn't talk about is if there was a driver from another company, it may be outside of the workers' compensation provision of the workers' compensation code. Let's assume, for example, the other driver was from another company, and you mentioned the driver pushed the materials or whatever, causing her to fall. If the other driver was negligent in how he transported or delivered these materials, then his company or her company may be liable and take it out of the workers' compensation code. And to that extent, whatever workers' compensation pays for medical bills, they will get their money back from the third party or the truck driver's company. So it may be a situation where this comes outside of the Workers' Compensation Act, and that's something that she may want to explore as well.
Might open her up to be able to bring a lawsuit for some different things, right?
Different damages as well. She mentioned she's not getting, I mean, she's off work, not getting paid.
Yeah.
So when you're off work, the bills don't stop coming. And that's why the Workers' Compensation Code exists, is to bridge that gap for an injured employee that's living paycheck to paycheck, to at least you've got some money coming in if you're injured through no fault of your own, whether there's fault or not, You can't be involved in horseplay and acting crazy, but it can be your fault if it's an accident.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, we've got some more updates with the question that we had before, the text question about a parent letting a minor drive a vehicle, and in this case, the accident was caused, the minor was 14. Okay. Well, does that make a big difference with a parent letting a child 14 drive?
There's some criminal aspect. Let's say you said there was a death. There may be a criminal charge with that as well. I mean, we're seeing parents, being responsible criminally as well for acts of children. But again, the negligent entrustment side of the law on the civil side would certainly come into play. The parent or their insurance company will be liable for the damage caused by the 14-year-old driver because the father was negligent per se, meaning he violated the law and was negligent to cause or contribute to this wreck.
We got this email question from Tom. Tom says, I was bitten by my neighbor's Mastiff dog while mowing my lawn. It's so large it just leaned over my fence and bit me on the arm. I'm planning on getting this treated tomorrow. How can I get them to pay for the medical bill? They think it's no big deal and I should just tell them when I'm going to mow the lawn so they can put their dog in. Well, that doesn't sound like you're able to use your yard. So the neighbor's dog biting you, should the neighbors have to at least pay the medical bill?
So we've had a lot of dog bite cases over the years with death, and it's awful,
really?
some awful stuff. So it can be, hey, he's planning on, getting treated tomorrow. I'm glad he's, relatively okay. But it can be significant stuff. I mean, there was a man, killed by a couple of dogs over in Lawrence County last week, and it can be major. So keeping your dogs up is important. And part of that entails making sure you have a high enough fence where your dog can't just reach over into your neighbor's yard. Remember, you have mineral rights, you have rights to your house, you have aerial rights as well, up to where the FAA takes over. But part of that, just because you get a tall dog or a fence is 4 foot and your dog's 6 foot, you still have to maintain your animal in a safe way. And if it can get in your neighbor's yard even slightly, you're liable for that. Now, your homeowner's insurance oftentimes will cover that, but be careful. There are now exclusions for pit bulls and some dogs with, quote, dangerous propensities.
Mastiffs may be among those, right?
They might. So, remember, you have the first bite usually is free if the owner didn't know about it or it was something that was foreseeable.
Okay.
But if the dog has what's called dangerous propensities, pit bulls, German shepherds, dogs that have that have a high biting propensity, let's be honest.
Bad history.
Some insurance companies are excluding those from coverage. So you want to check your insurance policy if you have a dog like that. And again, I get it, not the dog's fault. They're raised how they're raised, but sometimes the breeds tend to go in that direction. So say the insurance companies anyway.
Okay, they're telling us to take a break. We'll be right back answering more of your questions. Tonight we're talking all about injuries, everything from car accidents to dog bites. Stay with us.
31 Law Call. Your rights, your calls, live. Presented by the Tennessee Valley's award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm, Timberlake, League & Brooks. Featuring the knowledge and experience of Attorney Michael Timberlake, Attorney Will League, Attorney Heath Brooks, Attorney William Maservi, and hosted by broadcaster and family law attorney Sharon Doviet. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. Tonight we're talking all about injuries. So everything from swimming pool accidents, car accidents, we invite you to call in the 31 Law Call number 536-0077. But you can also text to that number. We've got text coming in tonight. Did I say Will League is here from Timberlake, League & Brooks? Okay, got in. Let's start with this one. Text message. If you hit a car that's parked in the road in front of their house, is it your fault? Is it their fault for leaving their car parked on the road in front of their house? Does it get into that?
You know, you got to look at that particular area. Is there parking? Is there no parking signs? Is it a restricted area of parking? You know, you have to have certain types of decals, reflectors on your vehicle. Let's say people leaving trailers in front of their house without reflector material on that against the law. Usually that's going to be on whoever parked that trailer. Again, the car's there. You got to keep you got to keep an eye out as to what's going on. Unless it's illegally parked, you're responsible for it. You're operating your motor vehicle. In this case, you know, you'd probably be liable for the damage not only to their car but to yours as well.
We've got Edward on the phone with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Edward. Thanks for calling. What's your question? I think it's something related to workers' comp.
Yes, that's right. I was injured on the job on March the 7th, actually, and I'm scheduled to have surgery on this Thursday.
Okay.
And I've injured both of my rotator cuffs, and I'm going. I'm a 40-hour employee and have been doing my best to work 40 hours, not in the area of work that I had been.
Okay.
But there are many weeks, and actually every week, that I can't physically work 40 hours a week.
Okay.
And my company has told me that I would have to take my PPO in order to make up the difference. And then every time I try to take the PPO, it's actually turned down. And I didn't know if I would be able to recoup those hours in which those non-40 hours
Right.
After it's all said and done.
All right, so the second thing I talked about earlier, what you're entitled to is 2/3 of your average weekly wage while you're off work. Now, you calculate your average weekly wage by looking at obviously your wage, any fringe benefits, many different factors come in to determine that because you want that wage as high as you can get it before then you make the multiplication and take 2/3 of that amount, okay? That's all you're entitled to under the Workers' Compensation Act. Now, some employers will give you the option to use your PTO to bridge that gap between 2/3 and that 1/3 if you're not able to work those amount of hours. Now, the employer has to reasonably accommodate you. Let's say you've got a specialty work, and obviously you said you injured both rotator cuffs, which are difficult surgeries to overcome, and that may take you out of that particular job access. Let's say you're on an assembly line for 40 hours a week. And after this surgery, you can no longer do that. You may want to have what's called a vocational evaluation. For example, let's say you're a furniture mover. That's all you can do. You've got a 5th grade education, just like both of my grandfathers actually. You injure your back. Well, that takes you out of a significant job function that you are skilled or qualified to do. And if you cannot do that, can you be retrained for some other type of vocation? If you cannot, that would increase your vocational evaluation. Let's say before you're uninjured, you had job access to maybe 20% of the jobs. And now you're injured, you have only access to 2 or 3%. So that would change the factor in that formula to determine, you know, what you would be compensated under the Workers' Compensation Act if you cannot return to the same duties for that long of a time based on your injuries. So those are something to look at in looking forward on your claim. But yeah, you can use your PTO, but you don't get it back because again, you're bridging that gap. Sorry to say, it's not great news for you, but at least that's there for you. At least bridge this gap until you get healed up.
Good luck with your surgery on Thursday, Edward. We've got Philip on the line with a question from Albertville, and I think somebody's been hurt in a nursing home. Philip, thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
I was hurt in the nursing home.
Okay, what happened?
I lost my equilibrium,
Okay.
and they said it was the slippery socks that I was wearing,
Okay.
but it's the wax they put on the floor.
Okay. How badly were you hurt, Philip?
I had a bruise all the way up and down my back,
Yeah.
and I could hardly move. But I've been laying here on this here hard bed for over a year now, and it's killing my back.
Hey, Philip, let me ask you, when you went in, they'll do what's called a minimum data set, which is a nurse evaluation to determine where you are physically. Do you need help in transporting from the bed to a wheelchair or to the shower? So sometimes you're required 2 people to help you transfer. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's none. If there are requirements that were not met within the nursing home facility, because again, that minimum data set, when you're admitted to the nursing home, it has to be followed, per the doctor's orders by the nursing staff. Oftentimes these cases arise where there is poor staffing or not enough staffing. Because remember, in the nursing homes, human beings are your most expensive part of running a nursing home are humans. Director of nursing, RNs, but then you've got techs. So if oftentimes there's just not enough techs to service that many patients, especially when those patients require 2 per transfer. So those questions have to be answered to determine whether or not there's any liability on the nursing home. They're saying you fell because you had slippery socks. You're saying there was wax on the floor. Was there any type of hazardous condition that they should have been aware of to warn you of, or did you need help in any type of transfer?
I just got up off the bed and I started to walk across the floor, and I put my hand on one table. It rolled and moved, and I put my hand on another table, and it did the same thing. And I just went down on my back.
Yeah, if it does not require transfers and they didn't do anything wrong, they probably won't be liable. But why are these tables rolling when you need help walking around?
I bet they've all got wheels, don't they, Philip?
Sure do.
Yep.
And so maybe they needed to be locked, especially with someone who's unstable,
Yeah.
On his feet. So that's something to look at. So you may want to talk to an attorney. There may be some liability there, but you're going to want to see your minimum data set to determine what type of care you required, going in there.
Feel better soon. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got a text message, so you can now text us to the same phone number. Somebody's asking about a situation with a criminal charge, a traffic charge, that somebody failed to stop for a policeman directing traffic. And they're asking, is there a chance of the dash cam video being available from a police officer's car? He's got court coming up in August for a criminal charge. Does he need a lawyer?
Okay, so who was a pro golfer a few weeks ago at the Masters? Was it the Masters?
I think it was.
Yeah, so it didn't stop. It was thrown out of court.
The video came.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, you have to, obey traffic signals. Part of that is obeying an officer if he or she's directing traffic. You fail to do so, you violated the law. What is the violation? Depending on what you did. But your dash cam video, that's evidence that may help you say, hey, I either didn't see him or couldn't hear him or her. So that may provide you with some type of defense. So would it be admissible? Admissibility, again, is up to the judge. The question is, will it help the trier of fact determine, the rightness of your cause? Will it help them determine right or wrong? And if it will, the judge usually will let it in.
And if he gets a lawyer, do you think get a lawyer? The lawyer would help you get that video.
The rules of evidence are no joke. And you try and go in there and get cute by yourself, it makes it different. You don't say the right words, or you can't make the right motions to get that evidence to get that evidence in. Then the jury won't consider it, and it hurts your case. So yes, sit down with an attorney, see what the evidence would reveal, and then let the attorney evaluate whether or not that would help or hurt your case, and then you know which way to go.
We're going to take a break, be right back answering more of your questions. It's all about injuries tonight.